Hello everybody, welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns. I'm Randy Patrick. Today is Tuesday, April the 23rd. Lots going on the past couple of days. So the news of today is, I guess you could say the news is that I am confused, and I think the market's in a total state of confusion right now. Let's get into it. Okay, if you want to know why, here we go. So NAR, the National Association of Realtors, released its existing home sales report for the month of March, and we found that, I guess you could say, home sales dropped 5.4% year over year from the previous March. And when you take a look at that, having dropped 2.3% in February, 8.7% in January, 10% in December, and 8.9% in November, we are now seeing consecutive months of year-over-year sales drops going on. So that certainly is a concern. The impact of lower mortgage rates has not been fully realized according to NAR, and of course they're going to make a spin on this as positive as possible. But if you take a look at it, we're seeing little bits of sale tick here and there, but overall year over year we're seeing decreases and decreases for consecutive months now. All right, so that's the big news. It seems all the lower mortgage rates, all the lower mortgage rates have accomplished is really a slowdown in the decline of the sales volume, and they're talking that the spike or the little bit of raise that we got in February was probably a fluke. Sales volume by region compared to this time last year was showing the West and the Midwest with the steepest declines. The Northeast fell 1.5%, Midwest fell 8.6%. The South fell 2.1%, and the West fell 10.7%. So inventory for the sale at the end of March was up 2.4% year over year, which represents a 3.9 months supply of inventory, and that's up from 3.6 months. So we're getting a little more inventory now, and obviously the lower end of the market is hot, while the upper end is definitely not hot whatsoever, according to the NAR report. So it's just one of those things. So if you take a look again, summarize, it was a 5.4% year-over-year decline for sales volume from March to March. The median sales price actually went up slightly, 3.8%, $259,000 roughly. Inventory inched up from 3.6 months last March to 3.9 months right now. So we see, again, a little bit more inventory coming on. Interesting to note, though, SoCal, Southern California, house prices fell in Los Angeles, Orange, and San Diego counties on a year-over-year basis. And apparently that's the first time that's ever happened in 7 years. So again, we're starting to see a lot of changes and shifting in various locations across the country. But I do find this because clearly, those are significant size counties with significant population, significant homes, volume of homes. And we're seeing, I guess sales have never fallen for all three at the same time for the past 7 years. So very, very interesting. Zillow, according to Zillow, again, I always take Zillow with a grain of salt, but the 10 fastest cooling markets in housing are out west, being Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, San Jose, Sacramento, Los Angeles, Riverside, San Diego, Denver, and Dallas, Texas. So Dallas is being lumped into the west, but that's according to Zillow, your 10 fastest cooling markets are looking west. Now, if you want to dig a little deeper in this, I always like to see what's going on in the sales volume and the distribution of sales. So the market conditions, 33% of the homes that were purchased in March were first-time home buyers. 18% went to investors, 21% are cash sales, and only 3% are what we call distressed sales. Distressed sales being REO, which is real estate owned, so foreclosed homes taken back by the lender, so it's their REO, their distressed property, and also short sales make up the distressed home market there too. I usually typically say there's probably of that 3%, 2 are going to be allocated REO, 1% to the short sale area. Now, if we go even farther and take a quick look at this, the percent change in sales from a year ago by price range, the 0 to 100K price range took an almost 13% decrease. 100 to 250K took about almost a 5% decrease. So that's what I call affordable housing, that 0 to 250K range. So that's the area that's getting hurt the most. There's lack of inventory there. It's suffering there. People need to purchase houses in that segment, and it's just not happening. Again, luxury homes, 500, 750 and above, we're talking 750 to $1 million, about 5.6% decrease in sales, and at $1 million and above, almost 11% decrease in sales. The only segment that actually had a slight increase of 0.6% was the 250 to 500K mark. And again, that is for the overall real estate market across the country. So you can see certain areas are hurting more than others. Now, the reason why I find this is so interesting and confusing, because we have a month year over year and month over month declines in existing home sales, yet the U.S. new home sales, so the new home segment, rose in March. Basically, it rose, let's take a look here. Sales were up 3% in March from a year-over-year basis. So last March, they weren't as high. They have a 3% increase in March, which is very interesting. All U.S. regions but the Northeast saw new home sales gain last month, with purchases in the South reaching the highest level in more than a decade. All right, so very, very interesting. And again, it's still a slow pace. It's not like it's growing by double digits. It's still kind of a slow pace here. And the median sales price, however, declined about almost 10% to $303,000. That's the lowest level in about 2 years. So the median sales price year over year declined about 10%. And when you take a look at this, part of the new home, sales surge can be attributed to the fact that builders are trying to get rid of inventory. They're trying to move product, and they are reducing price, and they're offering incentives, and for what we said from last video, actually stripping out higher end amenities from properties that they're building to compensate for lower price requirements. So that's what's going on. And also, when you take a look at the home building market, they always look for the future home builds, permits, things like that. So approvals for new projects dropped in March as well. So permits were down 1.7%, and month supply of new homes for sale in the market was 6.0. So 6.0 months of supply, which typically is a good amount of supply out there. Builders aren't selling as much, and they know that, and they're doing things all they can to reduce price and make things more available. Adding incentives are also incenting real estate agents to bring clients, this and that. But again, six months is pretty reasonable. It is different, obviously, than the existing homes inventory is, just 3.9, so just under 4. So again, there's a little discrepancy in there. So people want to go grab a new house. You're going to pay a bit more on average, but they're there. So if you can cut a deal or feel like negotiate with a builder, certainly by all means, now is the time to do so. So when you take a look at that, what do I think about all this? Well, the trend is definitely shifting, and the correction is here. The coolest markets in the West Coast, kind of like what happened last time through the previous housing crisis. We saw everything kind of start and I guess you could say slide in the West Coast and kind of move its way to other regions across the country. Now, all the economists and analysts are all upbeat, and they're predicting, increase in sales due to lower interest rates, but rates are low. So we've seen a slight uptick in new housing construction sales, but we've seen a definite decline in existing home sales, but rates are low. So when you look at all the articles and reports, everybody is touting rates are low, and rates are low should stimulate buying. Rates are low should give us a strong spring selling season. Rates are low should get this housing market kicked up and back to where it belongs. Rates are low, rates are low. Well, one has to wonder why, because I don't think that, rates are low are particularly cutting it right now, and rates are low aren't really pushing significant change in sales as we look at the market today. Could it be that we are simply tapped out of the market and maybe it's not interesting anymore? Maybe the next generation of buyers do not find this current market that interesting, or what's out there that interesting, or they just prefer to wait. And again, I also think that the past year of higher prices has given realization to a lot of people out there that they're just not going to be able to buy a house the way things are going right now. And so they're not looking. Yes, mortgage applications are up, but again, mortgage applications are getting yourself ready to buy. Doesn't mean you're pulling the trigger yet, just means you're going out and figuring what your pre-approved for and what you can afford and what you can buy, basically. So maybe they're not looking right now. Maybe people out there are simply content to acknowledge the fact that they're going to be renters in the foreseeable future until they see what we call meaningful discounts in home prices. So, and the issue that we're experiencing, as I mentioned, the new home with the existing home segment, the demographic that hurts the most is the affordable homes, and obviously that's the number one segment that needs the most. Most inventory, and we're seeing less and less of that. Builders can't really build in that segment. They're not able to do so. They can't afford, to build due to land costs that have risen, entitlement costs, rising material, skilled labor costs. And also, I added something here before I made the video that I checked into, and something that I totally forgot about, and it was a viewer named Don who pointed this out in one of his comments, and I appreciate that. And he actually mentioned that log price, he works obviously in the timber industry, so he said log prices are down and sawmills are sitting with inventory that they can't move. And that's actually a pretty interesting comment, because I did forget about this. I looked at this before, years ago, and this makes a lot of sense. And the reason being, builders are not building at the pace that they'd like to or that they are used to over the past number of years. Now, lumber prices have fallen considerably, and we'll talk about that right now. As a matter of fact, I have an article here. I'll post this on the information section. You guys can take a look at it. It refers to lumber pricing, and basically what happened is around May of 2018, lumber prices hit an all-time high, like big numbers. And by the end of the year, lumber future prices had fallen by 48%. And that's certainly a huge issue. Some of the information that they provide are the fact that tariffs are bad news for the markets, and tariffs contribute to the decline. We all knew the tariff wars that were going on with Canada, China, etc., on building materials, etc. So when the tariffs were out, suppliers and users knew tariffs were coming, so both rushed ahead to get ahead of the news. Suppliers rushed lumber to market as users ordered as much as they could to buy it at a better price before tariffs hit. In part, the price collapse reflects oversupply that developed because of tariffs. This is one of the reasons the decline in lumber shows that 2019 could be difficult for the economy, and unpredictable prices drive other patterns of behavior. Some buyers choose to wait for more stable times. This dampens economic output, which I agree. In lumber, supplies built up in lumber yards, but consumers are deferring purchases of homes because prices are too high. So of course you got builders who went and bought all this supply of lumber at higher rates and higher values, and they need to recover some of that cost profile in their sales. But new buyers, we just saw, we got an uptick in some buying, but the uptick in buying was directly proportional to the amount of discount that was being offered by builders. So, I guess builders are going to make less money or reduce or take a hit in their margin for the new home sales. So, in this case, low lumber prices will not be enough to resurrect the home building. Builders are wary of price swings in raw materials and must estimate contracts based on higher prices. And consumers are worried about overpaying after seeing home prices crash a decade ago. So they're unwilling to buy at current prices. So this is just, a synopsis and some observations from the lumber industry looking at the housing industry, which I find quite interesting. Unpredictability is rising. And this is the first stage of what could become a housing crisis. And that's it for the lumber issues. But if you take a look at the chart, which I'll post, you can certainly correlate to when lumber prices were highest and then when they declined. So they were highest and then it crashed. Then we're at an all-time high, and guess what? They've started to drop. So lumber prices at least the lumber future prices have dropped over 48% from May of 2018 to at least to the end of the year, and as obviously they've dropped going forward. So that's an indication. When raw materials and stuff like lumber and other prices drop, things aren't moving, things aren't being built, stuff isn't happening in the housing market. So I do find that to be quite interesting, and yet it's one more sign that something's not right in our marketplace here. So again, what does this really mean? Another industry affected by the housing slowdown. It's not just lumber. It's it's everything. everything. It's the people who are employed by the housing industry. It's, the department stores. When you buy a house, you go out and you buy furnishings for your house, and you buy appliances, and you buy stuff to put on the walls, and you buy landscaping, and you buy all sorts of things for your home, new TVs, whatever, because you're outfitting your house. You buy dishes, pots and pans, who knows what you do, right? Decorations. But again, so all these industries are negatively affected when housing slows down big time, and that's what we see right now. So I believe it's yet another sign of what's to come. It adds another element of confusion to the housing market. And what I mean by confusion is we have existing home sales that are dropping, and dropping consistently. And now we have these, new home sales that are sort of up and down, up and down, up and down, which that adds confusion. So how can one element be, consistently declining and one element sort of going up and down, up and down? Well, again, because sellers are fixed in their prices and aren't moving off their prices and probably haven't dropped enough or are currently unwilling to drop enough to actually make it attractive for new buyers. New buyers are probably going, I've had it, I just don't want to deal with this anymore, I'm going to wait, I'm going to sit on the sidelines. And people who really want to get into new home construction, they're seeing the availability of doing that now because they can go to a new home developer or a builder and they can start to ask for things that weren't available before because they have to move that product. As simple as that. So again, I think that market confusion, what it does, it leads to chaos and things will start to change because we saw this before. So what happened in the last housing crisis? We saw a huge surge of building, and then we saw, I guess you could say, builders, developers dropping prices dramatically. People were getting caught. You bought a house for $250K in phase one, and they, and 6 months later they released phase two at $200K. You were already negative equity in your home just because builder puts more inventory on the market because they want to clean out and cash out their development. So these things are happening all the time here. Now, in my market in Florida, there's a lot of things going on now, and I'm just going to use. I know not everybody's in Florida here, but I have the most up-to-date statistics for Florida because that's where I'm licensed, and I can tell you that we're kind of in that sort of change market as well too. Closed sales were pretty much about even for this time last year. So we had 0% year-over-year change. So we didn't have an increase, didn't have a decrease. We flattened, we're plateaued. The median sales price, however, did increase by just 2% year over year. So slight increase, which shows us that we're seeing, we'll call it negative appreciation. So we're seeing, every month the year-over-year appreciation slowing, which trends downward, obviously. As far as inventory, we see in this whole state the active listings up 9.6% from this time last year. So certainly more property is coming on the marketplace, and the month supply of inventory has gone from 3.9 months to 4.2 months. So clearly inventory rises, month supply rises as well too, which I find very, very interesting. And on a side note, when I look at the dollar values, so we saw the median price just rise 2%. When I go to the distressed housing market, when I take a look at the charts here that show us, the amount of homes that were sold that were either REO, foreclosed, again, realize that these are homes that were listed on the MLS if they're REO, foreclosed, or short sales. We don't see a heck of a lot going on. Again, it's 1% to 2% of the marketplace at best, but we're still seeing significant discounts compared to the median list price of a retail home. And that's kind of where everybody should be focusing right now. As much as there are opportunities out there to buy and you can negotiate and get what you can from sellers, if you're looking to purchase something, whether it's your own home, and again, a lot of people I've spoken with have, I guess, resigned themselves to sort of go, if I have to buy a distressed property and put some sweat equity or some extra money into it, I'm going to do so because I'm getting better value. I'm not paying a premium price. So I can tell you that the difference in the median price of a short sale to a retail sale is over $50,000. That's pretty significant. And also from an REO to a retail price was even greater, around $70,000, just for this month of March snapshot. But if I look at the pricing over the past number of months, that sort of difference, that delta, has remained consistent. So what I'm trying to say, though, is that more of these things will be coming on market or will will be available to you if you want to do a little bit of extra groundwork and figure this stuff out. And we know that foreclosure filings have increased year over year for the past 2 to 3 years and are on pace still to increase this year as well. And we know that different states, and we're one of them right down here in Florida, that it experiences, every so often it surges in foreclosure filing spikes. Simple as that. It's not just one market. It's not just the Sun Belt states, even though they're picking up. It's other states across the country. So we're seeing a shift. We're seeing a state of confusion. New home sales are going up a little bit, but they're bouncing. The existing home sales are on looks like a definite steady decline. And when you go back to the information, we're looking at not just 1 month of decline. We're looking at past 6, 7, 8 months of decline. Now, it's not always the same amount of decline, but still the amount of sales is slowing down, which means people are just not interested for whatever reasons, and I'm sure they have their good reasons of purchasing a home at this point in time. So that's the interesting thing that's going on here. I think it's definitely a precursor of things will worsen as time goes on. And we are really in, we've sort of moved through stage 2 of the housing bubble, and we're moving towards now the decline. So we're not into losing market value, but we're getting very, very close to where things are at right now. So the next 1 or 2 months, we're probably going to see us dip below, where we were last year. We're probably going to start to see us go down as far as value is concerned. And that's where people will start taking notice for sure. So anyway, that's the scoop today. So, am I confused? Yeah, I think it's tough to read the market. Listen, I talk to people. You guys call me. You send me emails. Everyone seems to ask, what's going to happen in the market? What do you predict? Well, if I look at the information, I predict a slowdown. And again, I'm not an economist. I'm just a real estate person who tends to spend a lot of time looking at what's going on in various markets across the country, looking for the signs. I see the signs. I implore you to go look at your local market, start tracking some of these things. If you go to your local real estate realtor association, a lot of the data is available on the websites, or if you go to the office, they can produce the data for you. I mentioned though, there are some locations around the country that don't have that available, which I find it kind of strange because that should be public information. But if you dig around enough or go visit them, I'm sure you can find out that information. You can go right to the local real estate association office. They will help you there because they're designed to assist the public in the real estate needs. So you don't have to have a real estate agent working with you to go to the real estate local board to find out this information. So again, keep that in mind. I believe that we're going to see more distressed property hitting the market, and I believe more and more people will be turning to this market as a solution to buy better priced properties. And it's kind of my motto, never pay retail. There's a lot of stuff out there you don't have to pay retail for if you just know where to look for it. So anyway, if you want to know more information about that, certainly drop me an email. I'll let you know how I do it and help you figure it out. So once again, thank you for the views. Thank you for the likes and thank you for the comments. I do love to understand what's going on in different markets across the country. Please subscribe if you're just watching this video for the first time, or my channel for the first time, or you haven't subscribed yet. Please do so. Helps us grow our channel and strengthen our channel, and helps keep me on top of my game. It keeps me knowing that I have to get out here and actually produce information that people want to see. A lot of you have asked about Bubble Kitty. I had her out today, and unfortunately, she knocked my light over and she knocked my tripod over. Simple as that. So Bubble Kitty has been kind of bad today, so she's not out, and I don't know, I'll have to bring her out at some point in time, but she likes to play with the cords and mess around with things, and it causes chaos when I'm doing video. So I'll have to produce my own special Bubble Kitty video for the future. But anyway, everybody, thank you for viewing and watching. Have a good week, and we'll hopefully connect later on before the week's end. Thanks very much.